and
Early
she is a
voting.
senator, and she has a lot of the Hollywood elite behind her.
Yeah, she does.
So when Tulsi did that, you guys don't, I don't think people still realize how that literally changed the course of history. It literally um, just completely annihilated her in
Yeah.
that way.
And the thing is about, like we said, he can't go after her. If he went after
Right.
her, how he would look. And that
Mm-hmm.
was evident in the last debate that Tulsi was absent in. And that's when I made the
Mm-hmm.
tweet that got the most response for me that day. I'm saying that was the exact moment right there when Kamala Harris was given that layup question where it looked like a little bit like the moderator was challenging her, but she got to clear her name of sorts and explain why her record was her record of sorts and kind of twist things her way. And then nobody pushed back. You know what I'm saying? If Tulsi was on that stage, it would have been pushing back right there at that very moment. But nobody else did push back. Not the moderators, not anybody else. Not Bernie Sanders. He couldn't. So the fact that Tulsi was went after Kamala in the first, the second debate, it did really change a piece, a course of history, and that's why it's so important for Tulsi to be on that stage.
Right.
Really, the progressives
absolutely
need to
agree.
understand that.
Absolutely
So,
agree. Like, regardless of how you feel about Tulsi and whether you agree with her or not, she is pretty honest about her positions. I mean, she's not in any way pandering to anybody. She's not trying to be Bernie Sanders, and we're going to discuss a little bit more about that later. Because if she were trying to be Bernie Sanders, she would completely copy every policy position he has,
yeah,
just like Elizabeth Warren is doing, and then we would find out that she's not really actually advocating that. So I think it's important that she went after Elizabeth Warren subtly this time, because she's basically saying specifically Elizabeth Warren doesn't have any sort of handling when it comes to foreign policy. And she doesn't. And if you've noticed, Elizabeth Warren has not been asked at all
yeah,
questions about foreign policy because she's terrible at it.
yeah.
And not only is she terrible at it,
The last debate.
she's
yeah.
extremely weak on Israeli-Palestinian issues. She's extremely pro-Israel. She's just kind of a war hawk.
She flip flops all over the place when it comes to Venezuela too. She's
right.
really bad, you know.
Yeah, and as far as the sanctions, and as far as Saudi Arabia, she doesn't really talk about Saudi Arabia, and so there are a lot of issues that Tulsi can point out, and I think it's important in this next upcoming debate to see where this goes, because Elizabeth Warren, like Crystal Ball said, is being touted as being in the lead in a lot of these polls.
Yeah.
She's the one that the media is propping up and it is rising. But the reality is that all real, number one, or is it manufactured? Number two, is it meritable? Which, like, what I mean by that is, like, does she deserve that kind of praise when she really hasn't shown much through legislation or any of her dealings as a diplomat? She's not a diplomat. Tulsi, on the other hand, has gone overseas, talked to different people on all sides. People like to bring up the Kashmir issue where she spoke with She's also spoke to Modi's opponent. So, again, I think that's where she can really go after Elizabeth Warren as well.
Well, I have a question for you in 1 second. I also want to point out the fact, and she also spoke to the opposition in Syria too. Very important to point out as well and stuff.
Which they talk about.
This is the part that irks me, because really, to tell you the truth, when we talk about foreign policy versus what we're going to get into later down, Medicare for all. When it comes to Medicare for all, I tend to drift away from the debate so much because it's the least amount of power the president will have moving forward to try to implement something like this. It's going to take committees. Bills are going to go through things. They're going to be rewritten. Ideas are going to be pulled over here, over there. So therefore, when you really talk about Medicare for all, I think you have to have the conscience of, like, well, who do I really trust? Do I trust Tulsi when she says these things, when everybody's covered, but you'll have the other option? We'll get into that, okay? The most area where they have the most power, the president is commander-in-chief, making a lot of these foreign policy decisions.
Right.
Donald Trump didn't have to sit down with Congress and say, hey, listen, can I send troops over to Saudi Arabia? He just up and went and did it, and that's where they have the most power. That's why foreign policy, when it comes to picking the president, the commander of the chief, means so much. But that being said, how does Tulsi go after Elizabeth Warren in your mind this time? Because she can't go after her the way she went after Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris had this awful prosecuting record. How does Tulsi kind of go after Elizabeth Warren, in your particular opinion, without going over the line and looking too much like a bully or whatnot? What area do you think she's susceptible?
I think there are two areas, one of them being Medicare for all. Now, I'm going to talk about Tulsi's Medicare for all position, but bottom line, she is for Medicare for all. the situation is that there are different Medicare for All bills. There's Shiapel's bill and Bernie's bill. Elizabeth Warren is saying she's for Medicare for All, but she has ties to the insurance industry, and a lot of these ties are going to become exposed in the next coming days. They're already starting to be exposed, but it's going to get bad for her.
Even more.
I think Tulsi can reaffirm both, like what's been happening in the last 24 hours because of her interview with NPR that we're going to talk about in a minute. Both reaffirm that she is for Medicare for All and explain her position specifically versus Elizabeth Warren, because a lot of people are saying, well, how can you attack Elizabeth Warren if Tulsi isn't for Medicare for All, if Tulsi's for a public option, which isn't the case. And so Tulsi should differentiate herself from Elizabeth Warren. She can also differentiate herself from Elizabeth Warren through foreign policy.
Yeah.
Obviously, Elizabeth Warren has been more pro-imperialism, pro-U.S. military intervention. She absolutely has no idea on the issues, and you can tell when you ask her the questions that she has no idea on the issues. You can also tell that she's being coddled by the mainstream media because they don't ask her these questions, whereas with Tulsi, they directly go to Assad. Modi. They're going to continue to ask her those questions. And as far as impeachment goes, Tulsi can also kind of specify why she's against impeachment and why the majority of Americans, about 58% of Americans, are also against impeachment.
Yeah, I think that's great that you mentioned that too, because obviously we say foreign policy. And not to mention anything, on the last election, they did ask Elizabeth Warren the layup question. They asked her the question about Afghanistan. It was a pretty straightforward, easy question. She knew it was coming because she answered it so quickly. And it's like one of the only places foreign policy she has gone. And I think the overwhelming amount of people want our troops out of Afghanistan no matter what. Just get them the hell out. 18 years, ridiculous. So that was the one question. I think it's obvious a lot of people say that Tulsi's going to go after Elizabeth Warren on foreign policy. Mm-hmm. But I think you just made a great point there, fam. She can also go after her where Elizabeth Warren takes the money from. Right. So even though she says she's Medicare for All, she's very disingenuous because who's paying her? Where Tulsi, it might be a little convoluted, might be a little unclear, but she's not taking money from the industry.
Right.
Therefore, you can trust her on her word that she's going to do the right thing. And I think that's an awesome point.
Right. So let's talk about Tulsi's plan, because a lot of people have been questioning if Tulsi is actually for Medicare for All or is she not for Medicare for All. Number one, I'm going to start out by talking about, there's a picture people are sharing that talks about access to affordable health care. That was her website. It's an old one. So if you are seeing that one with the access to affordable health care, that was her old website. That was from when she was in Congress before, not the recent one. It also said stuff about universal health care, blah, blah, blah. Because if we look back to 2016, Bernie was actually using the term single payer health and universal health care. He wasn't using Medicare for All, the term, as much till later in his campaign until Conyers popularized the term. So I know we are all hyper alert, especially as a Bernie supporter, because every single person has backed off Medicare for All. Every single person had backed off of Medicare for All except Tulsi and Bernie. So when people saw her answer, and I wish I had the audio. I know Nico had the audio. Johnny, I don't know if you can pull up his video or find the audio, but right now I'm just going to read the interview highlights on NPR. So
nice polite Republicans. Sorry.
Oh yeah, seriously.
NPR.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
know.
go ahead.
I used to like them. I can't believe that.
I know they changed. The Koch brothers started funding them.
So on Medicare for All, she says, yes, I support it. I prefer to call it Medicare Choice, where we are ensuring quality health care for all people, regardless of how little they may have in their pocket or their bank account, while maintaining their freedom of choice. If they've got an employer-sponsored plan or a union-sponsored plan that they're happy with, they should have the opportunity to do so. Okay, so when you first read this, I totally understand why people are on alert. Like I said, everybody has backed off Medicare for All with words like access to affordable health care, blah, blah, blah. And Bernie supporters are very focused on that. We're hyper focused on that because we know the language and the signaling to big insurance companies and where that goes from there. However, I have to say this isn't a signal, and I wish I had the audio, because in the audio she further kind of explains what she means by this. I don't see any signaling to healthcare companies. I see a signaling to people who have issues regarding union, if they're part of a union or if they like their employer. Now, I'm the kind of person that I've talked about this with my friends. I have a friend named Nancy. She's a teacher. She gets Medicare for All through her union already. Like it's really great health care. She said, I am concerned about Bernie's bill because I have to pay more in taxes now. And I'm still going to be paying into my union. And I'm afraid that Bernie's bill is going to take away my union because there are clauses in Bernie's bill that within a certain amount of time, after a certain amount of time, they're going to remove that from being a thing. So TRICARE and other options, TRICARE is for veterans, are going to be removed completely. So you're not going to have access to that. So she was concerned that she didn't want to lose that. And it's actually a valid concern. A lot of people say that this is a centrist take. So the difference between that take and the centrist take is that the centrist take is like, well, if I want to have my own insurance company, then I want to be able to have it. So we should just keep all public options open. That's not what she's saying. She's talking here about a private option, which is a completely different thing. So under her Medicare for All, Jayapal's type of bill, everybody is covered. So you already pay into it. So you already pay into Medicare for All. If you want to keep your union type of health care, you're going to pay into it anyway. You're willing to actually throw out money into it. Then you're allowed to do that. And this isn't really something that I'm kind of afraid of or I'm kind of like worried about with Tulsi because she is the kind of person that isn't going to force anybody to adhere to something that they don't want to. And it is an actual concern to a lot of people who don't have, who want to keep their union membership. So, but I'm the kind of person that's like, well, what the hell? Like, everybody should be covered. Not like, regardless, like unions shouldn't have better health care. The reality is, although everybody should have great health care, which is still part of this whole thing, that if you're a union member and you work for certain unions, you might need to go to the hospital more often. You might be doing more like grunt work. Whether you're construction, you're working machinery, whatever it is, there might be more things that you need to do to maintain your health. And I think a lot of people are uneasy of having that removal. And again, Tulsi is once again talking to independents and libertarians who are not comfortable with not having a choice when because they're afraid of big government. So when the government tells them you don't have a choice, they run in the other direction. So while I support Bernie Sanders' plan the most because it aligns more to my belief that, I don't believe in having, I believe in ultimately just having no private insurance, but his plan still includes private insurance, just like Jayapal's plan does, just like Tulsi's plan does. All of the plans still have a role for private insurance. The difference is Bernie's plan has the duplicative issue where you're like, let's say you go to the hospital and you have a union and there's no duplicative coverage, so you're gonna have to be covered under what's on Medicare for All, which might not be as good as what your union gave, which is why some people are pushing back. This isn't anything new. If you read the bill, it says it right there. But the problem is people, whether they're Bernie supporters or Tulsi supporters or whatever they are, don't read the legislation. They automatically react and have these very like just emotional reactions on Twitter, and then they're like, oh, I'm gonna cancel this person, that's it, like they're done, I'm done with them. And it happens on both ends. I've seen it happen on both ends. Today I was blocked both by Bernie supporters and by Tulsi supporters by trying to have a nuanced conversation on the issue.
I hear you, and I'd like to talk about this strategically for a second because you mentioned something. And in Tulsi's interview, when she opened up the first part of the Hill, she says she meets with people who are Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals, independents, libertarians. She said the word. She missed progressives, but she says that. And that's, once again, strategically wise. If you're a Medicare for All person, you're pretty much in Camp Bernie. That's where the majority of the people who are like driven by Medicare for All.
Well, domestic policies more than anything.
I'm saying that's the number one choice. If you're all the beret people, they're Bernie first, no matter what. You know what I'm saying? That's their Medicare for All or universal health care, whatever form you want to have it. Like I said, it's strategically, that's where a lot of the people are going to be. Tulsi's never going to get a real big piece of that pie, in my personal opinion. So the fact that she uses Medicare choice, like I said, to me, the signal is to those independents and those libertarians, those people she's bringing into the fold. And that's who she's kind of mentioning it
But
to.
it's still Medicare for all. Don't be mistaken.
Listen,
it is still Medicare for all.
Whether it's Medicare for all
No,
or not,
but it is.
I understand. I'm not conflating that issue. But once it gets to the floor, once it gets to committees, you know how these things change, fam. How much Bernie Sanders had an influence.
Bernie's bill
Dennis
has changed
Kucinich.
already.
I understand, but once it gets to committee, it's going to be chopped up. Everything's going to be coming in and out of this bill. Bernie's essential plan will probably not get passed through until it goes to different committees and it gets changed. So to me, it's all the mentality saying who are funding these people. That to me is the most important thing. And the fact that she's not getting funded by those same people, and I'm going to mention again.
She's not.
So for me, like I said, I pay attention to foreign policy more because the commander-in-chief has more power that way. So any way you look at it strategically, I think she made the right move by saying the word choice. I
disagree with you on that.
I think it hurts a part of her in a certain group, but for the most part, she's keeping that mind open to those libertarians and those independents who want a choice.
Right.
And not only that, what about the other forms of healthcare that Marianne Williamson talked about? We have
That's not Medicare
problem.
for all, though.
I understand, but why don't they start bringing that stuff into the fold?
Because a lot of people consider it pseudoscience.
Yeah, but I take artichoke when I get eczema.
Right.
I don't want to go get westernized medicine that's going to give me a form of steroids when it's going to come back. Why can't artichoke and other remedies, herbal remedies, be involved? Why isn't acupuncture involved and stuff? Why don't we talk about those issues and bring those into the fray?
Because a lot of people consider that pseudoscience, and you have to first prove that it isn't. So Westerners have taken over both in medicine and science, so they have delegitimized everything else that's any sort of Eastern medicine. Psychology is kind of changing, and it's growing, and we're realizing that a lot of the Eastern medicine type of things are very relevant, but you're still going to find a lot of pushback from the science community in regards to that.
But haven't we grown? Like yoga's so popular now, mental health is so popular.
But it's like hypocritical popular. Like it's a bunch of elitist, privileged people paying a lot of money to practice something that they overtook from people in India. Like it's all like convoluted. It's still westernized. It's
convoluted, but it's like everybody understands the importance of stretching and what it does for the body. And I did 2 months of yoga, and I thought it was one of the most amazing things. Whether anybody takes it in any particular way.
Hold on, we're digressing. Hold on. I just want to get back to point out a couple things. It is still Medicare for all, and I confirmed this with Tulsi's campaign, who said Tulsi has not backed off Medicare for all. Tulsi's stance has not changed at all. She is not for a public option. So again, a lot of people are out there saying that. That's not the case. It's more like a Medicare for all with a private option. So that is directly from the campaign. That is directly what they're saying. I have to disagree with Pasta. I think her using that word really just set out a can of worms as to people making assumptions and assuming that she means this when she doesn't mean this. And I think she using that word was a wrong choice because of the hyper focus that every progressive has on Medicare for all. A lot of the reason people are canceling Elizabeth Warren now is because of Medicare for all. It's not because of a lot of other things that she's done horribly. It's because of that.
I think the majority of people will be canceling Elizabeth Warren, 1 second, because she is corrupt. Let me just say that. But like that is why. If you look at why Elizabeth Warren is on the news now is because of her Medicare for all backing off. So to kind of go and do and say that word was to me like a horrible choice, and I wouldn't have advised her to do that. Number one. Number two, I think that you're right. She is looking to other to go getting the outsiders just by making them feel, listening to people who have issues with what is going on in Bernie's plan. However, she supports Jayapal's plan, which is arguably the better plan, but has also been watered down. Every single plan, like you said, has been watered down. Bernie's plan has been watered down. And the reality is that these are very specific bills that it would take a whole other video to break down each one differently. But the comparisons to Elizabeth Warren stop there because Elizabeth Warren is taking the money, and that's the bottom line. Tulsi isn't taking the money. And she's not she's not going to. And you can go and look at her records and see that she hasn't. And so it's important to differentiate between that. Also, the fact that Bernie is the one that people are looking at as the gold standard.
But the Jayapal bill is the gold standard in reality. Bernie is the gold standard as far as progressivism goes, as far as domestic policies goes. That's why I support Bernie, because of his domestic policies that are important to me. But I do believe that Tulsi has something to add to foreign policy where he lacks. And that's why I like Tulsi, because I think her foreign policy is definitely, as of late, much better. Bernie's foreign policy from before the campaign was really good. But because he is placating to the centrists, just like she's placating to the independents, they have different tactics in regards to certain things. And that it is what it is. And Tulsi is a different candidate. She's not Bernie. And I think people need to stop trying to make her be Bernie, because she's not. She is her own person. She has her own nuanced points of views. And we should be able to discuss the different Medicare for All plans that there are. Which I still believe that they are the only two people who would actually implement Medicare for All, where everybody's covered. Everybody else is taking the money.
Exactly.
Somebody said Cory Booker is for Medicare for All. Cory Big Pharma Booker?
Yeah, who
Seriously?
blocked the bill that Bernie's bill for lowering prescription prices on drugs. He blocked it.
One more thing I want to mention is there was a bill that kind of came out that was for a public option that Tulsi had an opportunity to sign on to, and she did not sign on to it. But if you want to know who did, Ro Khanna supported that one, and that one completely goes against Bernie's bill, but it was a public option to where you would have like still private insurance have a major role in here. And bottom line, like, you would still pay into the system. It's still Medicare for All. You're paying into it. But if you want to have your union type of healthcare, you still have it. I really don't have a problem with it. In my opinion, nobody's going far enough. I want to nationalize healthcare, meaning that you automatically, as a citizen, get enrolled to it automatically, no questions asked. And if you want supplemental insurance for something else, by all means, you can pay for it. But that, to me, would be the solution to all of these issues. And I don't think we're there yet.
Does anybody state in all their bills on how they're going to pay for the Medicare for All? Yeah,
Bernie Sanders states a tax, and the majority of people would pay very, very little. It's like a $846 increase, like, at the most. It's really not very much at all, because a lot of people are like, your taxes aren't really gonna go up. And again, bottom line,
premiums are a tax. They can look at that. Well,
yeah,
it's expense.
You're not paying your copays. You're not paying your premiums. And I have to verify, because there has been the claim up until now that Bernie's has zero out-of-pocket costs according to his Medicare for All plan. But if you look deep into it, there seems to be a limit to that. So again, I'm gonna go back into it, read the new plan that he let out, because I skimmed it, but I want to get more in depth and kind of go over that plan.
Yeah.
And Tulsi, I was informed, is going to release a more specific Medicare for plan on her website. So again, I don't follow the idea of canceling people just because you don't understand what's actually going on. And based on Twitter, based on some YouTubers who have always hated her. They've always hated her. And so they get any chance they get to like throw her out or smear her, they're gonna do it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I just don't buy it from them. If it's a source that is like has been pretty nuanced on Tulsi and has been pretty fair, and I'm criticizing her now with her use of the word. I'm criticizing that she doesn't have not just that, but she doesn't have a specific plan laid out yet.
Yeah.
She has it on her website, but it's not specific. It's not specific, and you need to be specific, because this is something that people are really hyper focused on. So I'm criticizing her for that. But for me to say that, she's for a public option, she's not for Medicare for All, that's just a reactionary thing that's just not valid.
Gotcha.
And I welcome the discussion, and I welcome people to discuss this in a nuanced way without getting emotional and blocking people and just like doing all of these things.
Well, those babies are going to be babies regardless anyway.
Well, they hate her anyway. Like,
it's
the
exactly.
Michael Brooks,
if people
the
are
David
going
Doels.
away from her, they
When
were never
have they been
supporting
fair?
her in the first
They
place.
have never
anyways.
been fair to her.
They've never been supporting her in the first place anyways.
Fam, I found the audio for the NPR radio.
Okay, great. Let's just play the audio so everybody hears the audio.
Yesterday, Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard qualified to be the 12th Democratic presidential candidate on the debate stage in October.
I'm going to skip to where it says it.
Sure.
About bringing the principles of service above self to the White House, ending these wasteful counterproductive regime change wars and redirecting our taxpayer dollars, our precious resources, towards serving the very real and urgent needs of the American people. Things like healthcare, education, infrastructure, protecting our environment.
When you say healthcare, are you for Medicare for all? If you can just tick through the list more specifically.
Yes, I prefer to call it Medicare Choice, where we are ensuring quality health care for all people, regardless of how little they may have in their pocket or their bank account, while maintaining their freedom of choice. If they've got an employer-sponsored plan or a union-sponsored plan that they're happy with, they should have the opportunity to do so. But the bottom line being that in the wealthiest nation in the world, there is no excuse that we still have far too many Americans who are underinsured or uninsured and who are one healthcare emergency away from total financial disaster.
Yeah. We'll talk about the...
Okay.
There it is.
She added the fact that it's honestly her last statement is reminiscent of Bernie Sanders, because in the greatest nation in the world, how do we still have people that aren't insured? So she's not saying she's going to leave the private insurance companies there to bamboozle people into paying health care. That's not what she's saying. And again, we are going to need something more specific from her. If she put out a plan that had a huge role for private insurance, I obviously wouldn't be comfortable with that. But as of now, I feel like a lot of people are making assumptions, and I think it is unfair to do that until you have a complete plan. And I think she needs to put one out. So I've already advocated for that, and still have a lot of her supporters as well. So
things are so convoluted with this discussion.
And Medicare for all is very difficult subject. It is so complicated.
Never on the surface.
So complicated. It is, and people think that they can just fix it in a tweet or fix it in such a quick way. It's just not. There's a lot of layers and elements and different plans. And again, I believe Jayapal's bill is the best, and still, and that's it.
Nathan Jackson says $20 super chat over
Thank
on
you.
the MCSE network. Positive political change is always incremental. It took us thousands of years to get to this point where we're able to enjoy the rights we all have. Tulsi's approach is realistic and it makes sense.
I don't even look at it as incremental at all. I think like it's not incremental at all. I think her approach is just more it's more worried about what other people are thinking outside of our echo chamber. That's what I look at it. I'm not for incrementalism at all. I believe incrementalism is why we're here. The incrementalist policies that like polluted our entire political climate the last few years are what led to Donald Trump. I think right now we don't need to be incremental. We need to demand Medicare for all. We need to demand everybody's covered. And if you're going to do that, and if you're not going to take the money, I really don't have a problem with how you want to word it. Yeah. If you're not taking the money and you can prove to me you're going to get everybody covered, I don't care. I don't care if people in unions want to keep their coverage. Why am I going to force someone to do something they don't want to do? And that's where her mindset comes from. And I think, it's disingenuous to say that she's backing off of it. It's completely different than what Kamala's proposing, than what Elizabeth Warren's proposing, both who take the money. So I look at who takes the money, bottom line. That's the one thing I look at.
Yeah. And the deal breaker is Medicare for all. Bernie is the only one who supports it, not choice. $5 super chat over there.
Thank you for the super chat, but he isn't the.
There is one.
He isn't the one. He isn't the only one who supports it. Like I just said, she's simply saying it's Medicare for all, but with a private option. And by the way, Bernie's Medicare for all plan includes a private option. I've read it. I'm a Bernie supporter. I'm going to vote for him. It includes a private option. What it also includes, though, is no duplicative coverage, which means, like I said, like if you have a union, you're not going to have that health care anymore. You're just going to have to rely on your Medicare for all to cover it. That's the difference. Some of you are acting like there is only one way, one Medicare for all, and that's it. And I get it, because that's how we've been conditioned to think, but the reality is, because there are different bills, there are different structures as to what it's going to look like. Canada looks entirely different than what Denmark looks like, and they both include private options. They both have a role for the private insurer. If you can find me a country where there's absolutely zero role in private for private insurance, please let me know. It's probably not going to be a Western nation, though, if that's the case. It might be something more like a socialist nation, like maybe like Venezuela, maybe at some point. I don't know, but still.
I think we'll get our own brand of like socialism, or our own brand of whatever. We'll pick and choose. It doesn't have to be like one thing, like you said. We can take a little bit of this, take a little bit of that, see what works and comes together. I think Caleb Maupin always talks about the socialism that will come to America won't be like your traditional European socialism, or won't be like your typical Asian type of socialism. Will be America's own brand of socialism, because guess what? We already have social entities within our government anyways.
Right. Yeah.
So
Social
it's a
Security,
quasi-socialist
libraries,
country
public
anyways.
schools, all that.
Ryan, we had a super chat on the hold on, I was just about to read that. We had a
I
super
thought you were going to read the other one. Sorry.
We can't find the other one yet. There was another super chat. We lost it. I think we took it. They took it down. Sorry about that. We missed it. Ryan Ath. People don't like their insurance plans. They like their doctors and their health care. I work in the health care, and I've seen plenty of doctors never leave my facility but change billing networks. Therefore, no longer can be covered.
Right. So that's the argument Bernie always makes,
Thank you,
right?
Rye.
That's like, it's not about your plan, it's about your doctor and what your doctor offers. But the thing is, when you're a union member, you're already paying into that. And so they would technically be paying double. Like, if you want to be an employer and still pay still pay more for whatever it is that you're getting that isn't covered, why should I tell you not to do that? I mean, I think the whole point of Medicare for All, though, is to cover everything that you possibly need. And I don't think anybody's saying that that's not going to be the case anymore. I don't think she's saying that. But again, I'm specifically asking her for more specifics, because to me, a lot of people are making assumptions. I know under Bernie, you're going to be covered for pretty much everything. So you're not really going to need to go and get something else, unless, of course, the only situation I can think of is some sort of surgery that's like plastic, not covered by Medicare for All, or if it's a situation where you have some sort of need to go to the doctor 100 times a month because you have whatever condition, and that needs to be specified too. But I don't think anybody's saying that you're not going to have that coverage. But I do think her using those words is worrisome, because it's not specific enough. So she needs to specify in her plan exactly what she means. But I don't think it's fair to say that she doesn't support Medicare for All, that she supports a public option, again, because like she's been saying this for a while, and she's been co-sponsoring the right bills.
I hope she's just more specific, like you said.
Absolutely.
We get some
She needs
answers
to
where
be
we
more
got to go to as well. I know a lot of people. I see some people are controversial on the thread over here.
I just want to highlight a couple comments that I saw.
Please do.
There were a couple comments I saw that kind of made sense to me. Talanos VYR says, Tulsi signed on to Jayapal's bill. If it hits her desk as president, do you really think she wouldn't sign it?
Right. Exactly.
Judd Hurst says, let's not forget where Tulsi has been for weeks in all the early states, and the people are more conservative. That being said, they like the idea of choice more than they actually like pain. Another comment says, Kimberly S., I guarantee Tulsi is baiting the moderators and setting a trap for Warren at the next debate.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I just think a lot of people are just, we're all here like, she hasn't specified, but I can go to Bernie and I can see what exactly he has, and I can say, oh, I agree with this, or I don't agree with this, and I can look at his plan. Versus with Tulsi, she hasn't let out her plan, which is why I think it's important she does. That way, if people have something that they don't agree with, they can know for sure, and if they have something they like, they can know for sure.
Yeah. There's a couple people like Tim Flabog. I think he jetted on us and said sorry. He was pissed at Nico for this, and now he's leaving on us. And there's a couple people said no need to leave on one issue. Guys, I don't think this is an issue where, we don't understand and hear you. Like Fiorella has been talking and pointing out, the people who really stand for Medicare for All or whatnot, they're saying they're canceling her on this issue. But, I mean, hey, that's your choice. I'm not there with you at all. Fam, you got anything else to talk about?
And that's fine if they cancel her, because who's their next choice? Bernie Sanders.
Well, yeah, I mean, Bernie, like I said, I think strategically Bernie, the Medicare for all
that's
people,
the thing,
they're
though.
going to be in Bernie.
They're all going to be Bernie, and then Tulsi's bringing in
The foreign policy.
I think that's why it's so
Civil
important.
liberties.
and
to
that's why they're
support her.
distinct. That's why they're different.
They augment each other, right?
Right, exactly. One has what the other one doesn't. I support Bernie Sanders because of his domestic, to me, his domestic policies regarding Medicare for all, regarding college for all, regarding canceling student debt, canceling medical debt, canceling just making it completely free to go to school. To me, those are the issues that are most important to me. That's why I support Bernie. To other people, foreign policy is the most important thing, and Tulsi is bar none to that. So I think they add something the other doesn't, and I think that is worthy of being recognized. And I mean, people are gonna do what they want to do, regardless of the information that's out there. So, Pasa, you wanted to talk about more of the impeachment.
Yeah, I do. And I just want to say that Armin Manugian said we can definitely learn a lot from nations like Canada and Denmark, but we could also learn a lot from nations like South Korea and Japan. Some Asian nations have made wonderful strides on healthcare. And like I said, we can pick and choose. We can pick out what's right.
Yeah.
As long as the mentality, the what's the word I'm looking for? Really, it's all about the language in which. Are we going to take care of everybody? And Tulsi always uses that language. We're going to take care of everybody. And Bernie Sanders uses that language. Everybody will be covered one way or the other, whether we do it with private insurance or not. Like you said, you would eliminate it, but some people, and most healthcare systems out there have a private insurance. So, more to be continued. And Michael Cruz, we get it. MMT, we got to learn it. Bernie understands MMT. We got to understand MMT
That's another
more.
reason.
We got to get an MMT specialist. If you know somebody who would like to come on the show and maybe start with the basics of MMT, we can unfold it. I think it's been done on a lot of other shows, but let's get it going. So if you have somebody to send us, Michael Cruz, let us know. Okay? Thank you for all those super chat contributions. Thank you for the 326 people on the MCSC network, the almost 200 people who are on the Convo Couch YouTubes.
Nice.
If you haven't liked and shared and subscribed on the Convo Couch YouTubes, please do. Don't you like when I say YouTubes?
Fred Edwards says, "Can I cancel culture?"
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Todd Jones, what is up on the Facebook? How you doing? Tony Humanic, Franklin Yu, Lucas Dyerkoff. There are 30 people who are over on the Facebook.
Facebook is
we almost 300, over 300 on the MCSC network,
like
and almost
5
200
something people watching.
Plus, we're on our Rockfin
And Rockfin and Twitch
Get on over
and
to the Rockfin.
Periscope.
ROKFIN. Get on over there. It's a blockchain cryptocurrency based platform. It is the future. Our monetary fiat system is based on oil, and as things start going crazy, the petrodollar, our money's going to become worth less.
Mm-hmm.
So we need another option out, and that's cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Rockfin. Let's go. Let's talk about Biden's corruption in the Ukraine because mostly.
Oh no, but Trump did everything. Trump.
Yeah. We're impeaching Trump because Trump tried to suppress the voice of a whistleblower who said he was talking with Ukraine to get political points to encourage the political the government of Ukraine to give them dirt on Joe Biden.
Which, if he did, that's wrong.
Well,
but so is this.
Isn't it like Russiagate 2.0? Once again, they're going to concentrate on the means in which the information was delivered. Oh, these were hacked emails. Okay, yeah, but who wrote them? Who, what I'm saying? What was in those emails? What was written?
They completely gloss over that fact.
Completely. And they're trying to do the same here with UkraineGate now, too, as well. And I just want to talk about it. Here it is back in late March. And this is Yuri Lutsenko, who's the prosecuting general of Ukraine. Here he is back in late March opening up a probe in corruption involved with the U.S. and Ukraine. So he's talking about U.S. factions in Ukraine. Now take a look. This is him on the Hill, late March.
Can you confirm that there is an audio tape that in which the NABU official is captured saying he was trying to help Hillary Clinton by releasing the Paul Manafort Black Ledger files in Ukraine?
It seems to me that Washington did not sleep tonight because yesterday evening, during your night, I just got an appropriate information from the member of parliament. Yes, according to the member of parliament of Ukraine, he got the court decision that the NABU official conducted an illegal intrusion into American election campaign. It means that we speak that Mr. Sitnik, the NABU director, officially told about criminal investigation with Mr. Manafort, and in the same time, Mr. Sitnik stressed that in such a way he wanted to assist the company of Ms. Hilton. And this member of parliament even attached the audio tape where several men, one of which had a voice similar to the voice of Mr. Sitnik, discussed the matter.
Given that information, is that the same NABU director that also chose to shut down part of the investigation into Burisma? Same office, same person?
Yes, this is the same director who was personally congratulated by Mr. Biden when he was selected as the chief of NABU. It's the same director who closed the file against Burisma. It's the same director who revealed criminal case information regarding Mr. Manafort. And this is the same director who complained about head of Special Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, Mr. Holodnitsky, whose resignation demands U.S. Embassy.
Do you feel, in light of all of this, that you had a NABU director that was trying to interfere by his own admission in the U.S. election by releasing the Manafort documents, the same person who then shuts down the Burisma investigation that your office would have had sufficient evidence to pursue, that there might have been some U.S. interference or external political interference in various prosecutions in Ukraine, something that would trouble you? Does that trouble you that there's a possibility of external political influence on these investigations?
I think I already gave my reply to these questions, and unfortunately only yesterday I got the court decision in December acknowledging the engagement of into the U.S. election campaign. Therefore, today we'll launch a criminal investigation about this fact and we'll give a legal assessment of this information.
Okay. So you can see right back then, that's late March. He's talking about what had happened. And I wanted to play the whole thing out so you understand the whole picture of what's going on. Because in return, in fact, what they did was Joe Biden bragged about holding the aid. He says, you're not getting until you remove the prosecutor, put in my own prosecutor. That prosecutor that he put in was very friendly, removed the lookings into Burisma. Hunter Biden was on the board. He got the money. But he also, in turn, used this prosecutor to dig up dirt on Paul Manafort to bring that back and use it against them. So it was actually the Democrats digging up dirt using a foreign relationship within Ukraine, because that's what they do, fam. They go and they put these puppets within their government, so they can rape the country blind. And if you look at the transcript now, what was going on. Now, this was in late March, fam, and this is what I'm trying to say, is that people are saying that Donald Trump got on the phone in July and kind of persuaded the Ukrainian government to pull up dirt on Joe Biden to use it as a political weapon so they can eliminate Joe Biden. But the only problem is this is the investigator there in the Ukraine talking about in late March that they're already opening up the investigation. He's already signaling to the American government, and Mr. Barr, in this particular interview, they cut it off because we originally watched it on Vice. He said, I don't want to talk about the details of the case. I have the information from Mr. Barr. Okay, so he's already telling them in late March that, listen, I got information for you guys. We want to pass it on, whether it be corruption from the last administration or this administration. So now here comes a phone call on the 25th. The transcripts, I'm just going to put it up in CNN transcripts so they show we're not biased. We're actually using CNN stuff. But you can see in the transcript, he never, and what Adam Schiff accuses the president of, what Adam Schiff is actually accusing the president is him using aid as in for information. So in other words, Adam Schiff is accusing Donald Trump of withholding foreign aid unless the new president of the Ukraine gives them information and investigates Joe Biden. There's no proof of that. He does, however, persuade inside here, and you can see where it says the president down below. Whatever you can do, it's very important. Do that if it's possible. And he's talking about what had happened with Mueller. He's talking about pushing him on. You know what I'm saying? They talked about crowd strike. You can see it right there in the middle. Read this yourself. But he's encouraging the Ukrainian government to continue the probe that it was already open, because now the Ukrainian government, the president, his party won parliament. So a lot of those American loyalists that were in their parliament were pushed out. Mm-hmm. So here's President Trump saying, hey, man, do us a favor. You know what I'm saying? Go through this stuff. We want to know about it. We want to know. You know what I'm saying? And you can see it all right there. So he does encourage, and kind of Tulsi Gabbard on the Hill thing says he was using his position to encourage to get information. Right. But guess what? It's already been broken open. They already talked about it. They already launched a probe. And here is Adam Schiff, the last thing I want to show. Adam Schiff is accusing the president without any proof of the exact thing that Joe Biden did publicly when he announced, you're not getting the money. Remember? Call the president. Remove this prosecutor or you're not getting the money. Here's Adam Schiff. Yeah.
And what you are witnessing and what you are seeing in the actions of this president is not democracy. It is the very negation of democracy. This is democracy. What you saw in this committee is democracy, as ugly as it can be, as personal as it can be, as infuriating as it can be. This is democracy. This is democracy.
It's not democracy. You're accusing the president without any evidence. And they asked President Trump that question. Did you threaten to withhold aid to get information? He goes, no, I did not. I never said, you won't get this if you don't give me that. And then the Ukrainian president said, no, I felt no pressure whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? They opened this probe up months ago. And he's corrupt to the core, fam. Biden has so much crap in Ukraine with the NGOs and the way he persuaded the government. We're not even talking about it. Why would the Democrats use this to go and impeach him? It's going to be disastrous.
Yeah, I mean, and bottom line, like, did Trump maybe use his power? Yeah, he did. But like Pasta's saying, this has been ongoing with Biden, with what Biden was doing for a while, and that's why they were investigating. So to say that this is all Donald Trump, and this is what really irritates me the most, is that I'm having to be like, Donald Trump actually isn't guilty of something. Do you know how bad I want to be like, yeah, he is? No, he's not. And you have to be able to not have enough Trump derangement syndrome to see that the Democrats here are the ones that are trying to refocus this so they can take off the focus, number one, from Biden, from themselves, and to also kind of stir their own political preferences in the Ukraine that they want happening versus what's actually happening. Because as Pasta said, when they feel threatened, when we feel like our imperialist like empire is threatened, we're going to go and manipulate everything accordingly. And unfortunately, the public ends up falling for this football. People are having impeachment parties. People are putting out the hashtag President Pelosi. Like, are you serious? That is why Donald Trump was elected. That is exactly why Donald Trump is elected. This kind of outrage, this faux outrage against Donald Trump without any offering of solutions. Just President Pelosi, just because she finally agreed to an impeachment that the public has been asking, some of the echo chamber of the center left has been asking for a while. Yeah. Just because of that, because you feel like vindicated. I will feel vindicated when Donald Trump is voted out of office. Yeah. By someone that can actually beat him. But is Nancy Pelosi going to go and endorse Bernie Sanders? Is she going to go and endorse Tulsi Gabbard or anybody that's an actual progressive? No, she's going to go fall in line and continue voting for a corporatist, which is then going to lose to Donald Trump. So again, when these same people who want impeachment are going to go and actually vote for the person that can defeat Donald Trump, then I'll believe that this is about defeating Donald Trump. Otherwise, it's all a shit show. It's gonna backfire. And it's all like they're all just freaking actors putting on a play.
Adam Schiff is a spook. You better believe it is, Michael Cruz. He is. He's CIA, deep state as can be. He's out there in front of every single war, whether it be Libya, Syria. He's out there in front. He he urged the president. He said the president wasn't taking strong enough action in Libya. Did he ever apologize for that? Because now there's an actual slave trade in Libya, and it's a destabilized country, and the refugee crisis is just pouring into Europe like crazy. And let me also just state the fact that when it comes to this stuff, this is the same tactic they used in Russiagate. Russiagate really played against them at the very end. A lot of people believed it at first, but even like Rachel Maddow, she lost so many people after Mueller did his investigation. This is the same thing. This is worse because you have Biden almost admitting to his guilt at what he did. And what he did was wrong. Everybody's like, isn't that interfering? Isn't that like, hostage taking over there? That's collusion. That's more than that's putting a gun. That's like mafia style. You do this, you remove this person, otherwise you ain't getting that money. I mean, this is terrible for the Democrats. It's sad to see a lot of those people really jumping on the impeachment bandwagon for this, because this is just going to be, this is giving Donald Trump another term. So. That's all I got
unless
to say
you
on that.
choose a Bernie type of candidate who can beat him, you're not gonna. He's not. He's gonna. You guys are gonna see support against the victim, because now you've turned him into a victim to the point where even I have to be like, actually, no, the Democrats are manipulating this. Someone that doesn't like Trump at all, like that really, really does not care for him, has to be like, oh, like, you guys are making me defend Donald Trump
again.
Like I want to slap you
again. This is many
Why
times.
would you do that?
It's so bad. It's so bad. He says somebody says that this is their Russiagate mulligan. They're going to go switch from Russiagate to Ukrainegate. Boris and Natasha said that so as well. What's that? Yeah, it's it sounds the same. They're just using the same method again. Like they're really trying to impeach him because he wouldn't allow this whistleblower to speak.
They don't have a case. Nothing's going to happen.
I don't even.
It's a waste of time. I don't even like
They
drawing
don't even have the
attention to
Senate.
it.
Why are they doing this, fam? They don't even have the Senate.
No,
Why would they do this?
it's like sabotage.
Do we have any more super chats out there? No, we do not. I think that's it for now, fam. Just hi to Michiko's back on the Facebook as always.
Hi, Michiko.
Exactly, pasta. Tony says. Thank you, Tony. Tony's a foreign policy guy, so we always like Tony. We got a super chat on our convo couch. $10. Curious 49 says $10. Thank you, Curious 49, and thank you all who've always helped us out since we've been able to get this over about 10 days ago. Was it about 10 days we got monetized? 9 days ago. You've been very great to us. On the MCSC network, on the Facebook, on the YouTube, on the Convo Couch YouTube. If you haven't liked, shared, or subscribed, Ron Placone, don't be coming on here saying pasta for mayor. At the dojo tonight, if you're in Hollywood, go to the Sycamore Tavern, 9:30 tonight. Howdy, howdy, Ron Placone
and friends.
Crew and friends. Convo Couch will be there. Real Progressives, Tina Burke, Desiree will be there. Who else?
Melissa
Field
Michelson.
Burn President Melissa Michelson will be there in the house. Jonny Tsunami, Pasta Jardula in the house. Sycamore Tavern tonight. Once again, if you haven't gone over to our Rockfin, it's at Flappers?
It's at
Flappers. Way to go. It's not at the dojo. Fam, fake news from Fam. I'm sorry, it is at Flappers tonight.
No, he blames me, but
I do, because you said it was at the dojo.
It's in Salami.
It's at Flappers tonight in Burbank, which parking by the Ashley Furniture is free. That's where it's going to be. Flappers tonight.
Flappers is great, by the way. I love Flappers. Burbank, right? Yeah,
Peach Pasta Twitter. Ron, shut up. I love you, brother.
I'm working on it.
He's working on it. I got over 2,000 followers now, I think.
Yeah. Follow Pasta on Twitter and teach him the ways, everybody.
At Yo Pasta, Savage Fee.
Yo Pasta.
All right, so we're going to get out of here once again. If you haven't gone over to our Rockfin, please do. We do have a Patreon. Thank you for the 66 Patreons. It's been growing slowly but steadily. Our subscribers on YouTube is over 26,000. Woo-hoo! Fee for Senate, Pasta for Mayor, Johnny for dog catcher. Maybe we can do that and stuff. We'll catch mollies all over town. For Pasta Jardula.
And Fiorella Isabel.
Johnny Sue is still on those 1s and 2s.
Combo out.
Bye, everybody.